So when Jen and I first moved here several years ago, I was going around speaking to all these different groups and introducing myself and obviously learning about who they are. And so the mothers of preschoolers asked me to come speak. And as soon as I got that invitation, I'm like, oh, absolutely. These are my people. I got two little kids. And so I was all excited walking over thinking, no, these are my people, not a problem at all. And I walked in the room and looked at all the moms of preschoolers and immediately thought, these aren't my people. They were my people 10 years ago. But they're not my people now because I don't really have little kids anymore. Now my kids are 16 and 19. At the time, they were 13 and 16. And yet in my mind, they were still these little kids. It's a funny thing about time. It just passes very subtly, very slowly. It just kind of passes. And because we're living it, we're experiencing it every single day, we don't see the changes that happen. One of my coworkers has a little boy, and a couple of weeks went by, and I hadn't seen him, and he walked in the office, and I looked at the mom and said, hey, man, your kid's really grown. And she looked at it, and she hadn't seen it. Seeing him every day, she had missed the growth that was so obvious to me. Have you noticed that time has changed? That as we're in this kind of beginning of this newer year, that this is a different day than just 6 weeks ago, or definitely 2 years ago, or definitely 10 years ago. I've told you before, one of my favorite passages is Psalm 90, verse 12. Teach us to number our days aright, that we may gain a heart of wisdom. There is this element of life that we so easily forget. It's just this concept of seasons. That there's right behaviors and activities in certain seasons that aren't right, and aren't the things that we need to be doing in other seasons. I got a 16-year-old son, and so he's learning how to drive. And it's not unusual at all for him to come home from school and work and just go play a couple hours of video games. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. He's a 16-year-old boy. In this season of life, it's the absolute right thing to do. But imagine 10 years from now, if he has a wife and a couple of kids, if he came home from work and immediately went and played 2 hours of video games instead of taking care of the kids or helping around the house or making dinner or putting kids to bed or giving them baths. That would be absolute foolishness. What is right and wrong one season is wrong in another season. I wonder, what season is this for you? And is it possible that just like me speaking in front of the MOPS group, that you and I, because time passes so subtly, that you and I are still living in a wrong season and we don't even recognize it? And what we're doing now used to be right, but now it's actually not what we need to be doing. That there was a time in which we needed to make sure that we were getting filled and other generations were mentoring us and serving us. And it really was all about the preparation of what we would be one day. But now here we are 10 years later, 20 years later, 30 years later. And this is the time actually for us to give back to other people, to be making sure that they're stepping up into roles and leaderships. And a couple of weeks ago, I was preaching on a Sunday morning, and the students were out there, and I encouraged many of those students that, hey, look, there was a day in which you were in elementary school, and that was a time for you to be filled up. But now that you're in high school, you actually need to be giving back to the church as well. That for many of them, they might have a deeper maturity than even some of the people with gray hair sitting in the rest of the room. And even as those who are older can tell them about life, those who have been walking with Jesus longer can mentor and model for that older generation what it means to be following Jesus. It all comes down to this realization of what is today. What is this unique season? I love to ask little kids whenever they have a birthday, maybe they turn 6. I love to ask the question, hey, what can a 6-year-old do that a 5-year-old can't? It's just helping them understand the days have changed, the seasons have changed, embrace the newness of what's going on. Is it possible that as you wake up this morning, that you are living in a new day, and this day requires and demands of you to let go of some things that used to be right, but they no longer need to define you? And now to embrace a new role that you've never been prepared to play before, but now because of all your experience, everything God has done for you, He has led you to this moment to now live in the midst of this season. If you and I are living in seasons past or trying to rush to seasons in the future, we're going to miss the very gift of what is today. The only way for you and I to truly experience Jesus today is to embrace this day as the gift that it is and live the moment the way we're called to live it. What season is it for you today?